When someone smiles at you across a table, laughs at your jokes, or touches your arm by accident, it's easy to wonder, is she flirting or is she just being nice? For centuries, people have relied on intuition, gut feelings, and romantic hope to make that distinction. But what if there was a science behind it? It sounds almost too clinical for something so deeply emotional. Yet decades of research in psychology, evolutionary biology, and social behavior suggest that our brains are constantly reading clues, some obvious, some incredibly subtle, to answer exactly that question. What feels like mystery might actually be a pattern. What feels like ambiguity might be predictable. And the very things we interpret as flirting may not be romantic at all. So let's explore what science actually tells us about how people signal romantic interest versus how they simply express friendliness, and why our brains sometimes get it spectacularly wrong. At the heart of this question lies a fundamental problem. Humans are social animals, not solitary hunters. Since the dawn of our species, our survival depended on cooperation, connection, and communication. People evolved to be highly sensitive to the emotions and intentions of others, because misreading a social cue could have meant isolation, loss of alliance, or even danger. But evolution didn't equip us with a flirtation detector. It equipped us with a general-purpose social inference engine that looks for patterns in behavior, tone, gaze, posture, and context. That engine is brilliant at detecting safety versus threat, but it wasn't designed specifically to distinguish friendliness from flirtation. And that's why we get confused. Let's start with one of the first things people notice in social interaction: eye contact. Eye contact matters more than almost any other single social cue. Studies show that when someone locks eyes with you longer than average, it activates the reward centers in your brain, the same neural circuits that light up when you see something you find desirable. That doesn't mean eye contact equals flirting, but it does mean your brain will register it as special attention. Evolutionary psychologists believe this makes sense. Maintaining eye contact with someone signals engagement, interest, and in ancestral environments, cooperative intent. In modern life, we've layered romantic meaning onto a cue that originally had broader social function. Importantly, though, the meaning of eye contact changes dramatically based on context. In a business meeting, direct gaze signals confidence and respect. In a lecture, it signals attention. In everyday conversation, sustained eye contact may simply mean someone is listening intently. Real flirtation tends to include eye contact that is paired with other signals: a quicker glance followed by a shy look away, a flicker of a smile, or pupils that dilate in response to your presence. Scientists measure pupil dilation because it's an involuntary response that often accompanies attraction. But even this isn't infallible. Pupils also dilate in response to interest, fear, surprise, or focus. Another cue often mistaken for flirtation is laughter. Human laughter is fascinating. It's not primarily a response to humor, and psychologists have discovered that people laugh in social situations much more often as a way of signaling affiliation and safety than as a direct response to something funny. You've probably experienced moments where your friend laughs at something only mildly amusing, because laughter was a way of saying, "I like where this interaction is going. I'm comfortable with you." But that's friendship, not necessarily romantic interest. Laughter is a social lubricant, not a universal sign of flirtation. People laugh to create harmony, to ease tension, to bond, and only sometimes because they are sexually attracted. A light touch on the arm in some cultures can be a sign of flirtation. In others, it's a friendly gesture. Research shows that humans use touch to communicate comfort, empathy, greeting, and reassurance, and only sometimes desire. In experimental settings, a light touch from a stranger doesn't consistently predict romantic interest. It predicts social warmth. People also misread touch because it activates powerful neural circuits related to bonding and trust. A handshake that lingers too long, a casual pat on the back, a guiding gesture, all release neurochemicals that make you feel connected. But the presence of connection is not proof of romantic intent. And then there's posture, that subconscious body language that tells the world how we feel. People who lean in, orient their shoulders towards you, and lower their bodies slightly when speaking tend to be more engaged. Scientists interpret these signals as approach behaviors, indicators of interest and attentiveness. But approach behaviors can signify many things. A teacher leans in to show engagement. A friend leans in to signal empathy. Your brain registers these cues as positive social signals because closeness historically meant safety. But safety is not the same as flirtation. The social psychologist Robert Cialdini describes something called the principle of liking, which states that people respond more positively to people who are similar to them, who pay them compliments, and who make them feel understood. That principle applies to both friendship and flirtation. When someone shares your interests, reflects your language, or expresses genuine appreciation for your ideas, you feel good. Your brain might interpret that good feeling as attraction because both friendship and romance recruit similar affective circuits. The difference isn't in a single cue, it's in the constellation of cues, the emotional context, and the intentions behind them. One of the most illuminating findings from research on attraction comes from a classic study, the speed dating paradigm. In this setup, strangers sit across from each other for a few minutes. Afterward, they rate whether they want to see the other person again. Interestingly, people are often poor at predicting others' interests. Both men and women tend to overestimate romantic interest based on friendliness. What predicts mutual attraction is not just eye contact or laughter, but prioritized responsiveness. Does the person consistently redirect their attention to you? Do they seek you out in group settings? Do they follow up later? Flirtation is persistent. Niceness tends to be more situational. Another fascinating insight from social science is the role of proximity and repeated interaction in shaping perceived flirtation. The more often you see someone in a positive context, the more your brain associates them with safety and comfort. This is known as the mere exposure effect. If someone is consistently warm toward you, maybe because you sit next to each other in class or work together daily, your brain begins to associate their presence with pleasure. From the inside, that feels like attraction. But the outside person might simply enjoy your company as a friend. Your brain works as if the relationship feels good, without distinguishing romantic intent from social satisfaction. Evolutionary psychology adds another layer. It suggests that human brains have evolved to be highly sensitive, sometimes overly sensitive, to potential mating opportunities. From an ancestral perspective, missing a genuine signal of interest could mean a lost opportunity for reproduction. As a result, many theorists argue that humans are biased toward over-detecting flirtation rather than under-detecting it. In other words, your brain would rather mistakenly interpret friendliness as flirtation than miss a real mating opportunity. This is called a false positive bias, and it is a feature, not a flaw, of human social cognition. But modern life complicates this bias. In social species, friendliness is pervasive. Collaboration, kindness, politeness, and social grace are essential, so the brain's flirtation detector goes haywire. We see potential where none exists. We read interest in plain kindness. We confuse social ease with romantic intention because the emotional reward systems triggered feel similar whether the context is friendship or romance. This explains why people in ambiguous relationships often oscillate between hope and doubt. One day a smile feels like a secret message. The next day, a casual text seems like nothing more than a habit. Science suggests that the truth doesn't lie in any one behavior, but in patterns over time. Flirtation tends to look like a consistent, multifaceted signal. Eye contact paired with sociable touch, laughter that increases in frequency when you're present, a voice that changes pitch specifically with your name, reciprocal invitations to spend time together, and a desire to know your future plans. Another piece of the puzzle is language. Not just what people say, but how they say it. Compliments can be tricky. "You're really good at that" can be a professional observation. "I love your laugh" can be sincere friendship. The nuance lies in specificity and frequency. Compliments that are personalized, repeated, and connected to emotional qualities rather than general attributes are more likely to be associated with attraction. A friendly compliment is a spark. A flirtatious compliment is a pattern. Science tells us that humans use nonverbal synchrony to signal deep rapport. When two people unconsciously mirror each other's posture, gestures, and speech rhythms, it indicates a high level of interpersonal attunement. In romantic interactions, this synchrony is often more intense and spontaneous. In platonic interactions, it is present but lighter. Mirroring that emerges only in specific contexts. For example, when alone versus in a group, may also indicate deeper attraction. But there's no algorithm that perfectly decodes human intention. Every social cue exists along a continuum, and interpretation depends on individual history, cultural norms, personal expectations, and emotional states. Two people can display the same behaviors and mean completely different things. One person's flirtation is another's ingratiation. One person's kindness is another's social grace. The brain is a pattern detector, not a mind reader, and it fills in gaps with probabilities based on past experience. Psychologists often advise people to ask a simple question when trying to distinguish flirtation from niceness. Is this behavior directed specifically at me? Or is it part of how this person interacts with everyone? True romantic interest tends to include differentiation. The person acts in ways that are unique to you, not just part of their general social style. But this too can be clouded by social norms. Some individuals are deeply expressive and warm with everyone they meet. Others are reserved and subtle even when attracted. So the science says there is no single cue, no perfect signal, no guaranteed test. Instead, what we have are probabilistic indicators that increase the likelihood that interest is romantic rather than friendly. And this brings us back to why humans struggle with this question so much. Because our brains aren't built to categorize people into neat boxes of friendly or flirty. They are built to keep us connected and safe. When someone is kind to us, our brains release oxytocin and dopamine, chemicals associated with trust and reward. These same chemicals are also released in early stages of attraction. The emotional experience feels familiar, whether the context is romance or connection. So when a person smiles, laughs, mirrors our movements, and speaks eloquently, our nervous system lights up as though something important is happening. Science doesn't tell you with 100% certainty that someone is flirting, but it does provide a framework. Look for consistency, exclusivity, multimodal signals, differentiated behavior, and emotional investment that goes beyond general social reward. A one-off compliment can be nice. Repeated, personalized compliments over time may be flirtatious. A brief moment of eye contact can be polite. Sustained, meaningful eye contact, combined with body orientation and synchronized speech, may indicate interest. Touch can signal connection, but only if it occurs with respect for boundaries and is reciprocated in other contexts. Ultimately, interpreting human intention is both art and science. Our brains work hard to decode social signals because relationships matter for cooperation, survival, support, and yes, for romance. When someone feels close, the body cannot always tell the difference between emotional warmth and romantic attraction. This is not a flaw. It's an artifact of how social humans evolved. Flirtation is not a single cue. It is a constellation, a choreography of behavior, emotion, and response that unfolds over time. Niceness is a foundation. Flirtation is specificity built on that foundation. Kindness is connection. Attraction is attention anchored in intention. And while your brain will always try to classify experiences quickly, the true story never reveals itself in a single smile or laugh. It reveals itself in patterns of behavior over time, in the investment someone makes in your presence, and in the mutual desire to continue creating shared moments. In the end, science doesn't give you a final answer. It gives you a lens, a way to look at social behavior with clarity, nuance, and less guesswork. It suggests that the real question isn't is she flirting, but is she consistently signaling interest that goes beyond general social warmth? That's where the boundary between flirting and niceness lives. And once you understand that distinction, the mystery becomes far less mysterious. Because you're no longer guessing at isolated signals. You're observing patterns, and patterns tell stories. And sometimes, science reveals that what feels like romance is really just the joy of human connection in all its beautiful, confusing complexity.